On this episode, we talk about content creation for businesses and how to do it best.
With so many different platforms,
Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, YouTube,
and their purposes evolving daily, navigating social media can be, well, complicated. Welcome to the Social Media Sucks podcast from Kubbco.
Social media really sucks.
Where we unpack the latest trends and help remove the suck from social media.
Hi guys, welcome to the Social Media Sucks podcast by Kubbco. So you're tuning in for a dose of marketing and to get what's happening in the ever-changing social media landscape. So today with me, I have Chris Carbonus, our beloved CEO, as always.
What's up, guys?
And then our special guest, Emils,
You are special.
who is our Chief Creative Officer.
Hello.
Great to have
Hello.
you.
Hi.
Hi, it's good to be here. Long-time listener, first-time guest.
Oh my God.
Yes,
Yes.
exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
I love that.
I'm going to make it really awkward.
Yeah. So,
Just like how it is at the office. This is awesome. Great.
great. Well, we have brought Emils you on today to talk about social media and the best practices here. So can you start with telling us just 3 important things to know about you?
Yeah. So I am originally from Latvia.
Yes. Latvia. It's my favorite country besides Canada.
Besides that, I have a large background in production with different kinds of creative stuff.
Yep.
Meaning photo. I used to do a lot of photography on for magazines, for cruise ships, for corporate world. I used to do documentaries for videos.
Yeah.
I used to do graphics also. So I've been all over the place on
What
the creative.
haven't you done? We should start with that list.
Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, that's
Yeah,
a different.
that's
That's
a-
like a zero list.
So I've been a bit of like a Swiss Army knife when it comes to
Yeah.
like production stuff.
And
And
that
then for the last 5 years, almost, I've been here at Kubbco.
5
Yeah, It'll be
years.
5 years in November.
What?
Oh, October.
It'll be 5 years in October.
So less than,
That's amazing.
yeah, so it's more than 4.5 years.
You and Kamal are the longest running employees.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
Kamal is our client service director here at the
And
Danish
you guys
company.
kind of started like the same week,
Yeah.
roughly.
Beautiful.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So I have been part of building this whole
Yes.
craziness.
Yeah. Yes. We can blame him
Yeah.
and
mean-
me.
So it's been cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are the 3 facts, I guess.
That's great.
Amazing. So Emils, what do you consider as a good piece of social media content?
Yeah. I
Yeah.
think there's several things that we look out for when we're creating stuff. One of the things is like we call it the thumb stopper, because apparently there's a Statue of Liberty a day that we scroll on.
The length of the Statue of Liberty. Yeah.
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 Per person?
Per person.
Damn.
So it's really hard to, you have a 1 centimeter, 5 centimeters on your phone of a marketing space. So you really have to make it count.
Yeah.
Building community would be like also a good piece of content in my mind. It's like brands that are able to create
A sense of
engagement.
belonging.
Yeah. Or
Yeah.
like
this speaks to me sort of thing.
So a good example for that would be something like Slim Jim. They do content on, meme only content.
Yeah.
And the community is actually really responsive to that. And the memes that they're making are very only Slim Jim community
people get
understands it.
Yeah.
Something like another good one would be like, we'll talk about it maybe also later, like Liquid Death. It's very morbid, but their fan base is also the same way.
Yeah.
And all of the things that they talk about, and it creates a lot of like user-generated content. Some brands that also like could do it a lot better would be, I would say, like makeup brands, because they have a huge, almost like a cult-like follower base, but they're not really working with that.
No, I guess you'd say that some of them don't really have an edge in terms of like, does this speak to our specific fans? Like, those people that love us, would they get the inside joke, or would they get the, like Liquid Death, like Slim Jim? There's a sort of a shared cultural reference that I think all brands kind of miss. Not all, like many brands, they don't know how to develop that cultural language with their followers. That's hard. That's the next level of
and
social.
maybe also just in beauty, I know there's definitely like hardcore loyalty in there as well for different for specific products, but in the beauty industry, the consumers really have a lot of different kind of brands they test out, they use, so there's no really that core loyalty towards one beauty brand. It's more towards a single product per se.
Yeah.
And then on that note, yes and no, because you have the consumer, if they don't like the brand, they will have zero loyalty and they will switch off. And we have, through like trend forecast researches, we can see that if they don't like something, they'll just instantly switch.
Yeah, there's less loyalty.
Yeah, but then you have brands like what we're managing, Olaplex, and they're just
huge loyalty.
They're huge loyalty, and they're basically created on the base, like on the foundation of their fan base.
Yeah.
That's how the brand started, and it's huge. So I think if you want to build a really strong brand, you have to build that community around it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Nowadays, you can't have one without the other.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's really important.
And then the last thing is, I think you have to follow the trends.
Yeah.
And you have to follow the culture that is happening around. And that's, I think, what influences a lot and creates a good social media post, because it feels relevant to you.
Yeah.
Of course. And
taking what's out there and try to spin it towards your own brand in some ways.
You can see a lot of like good brands will no more have a very distinct grid on Instagram, for example. It will be a bit of like all over the place. You can see brands like Bang Olufsen is also starting to play around now. It's no more this really, really polished every single picture. They're playing around, which is great to see. Like you can see they're reaching out to specific artists to create an interpretation of their brand. So you can see it's a lot more like a good example, like Skull Candy, right? Like every 5 posts is a bit different. So they post in series.
I think that the idea, I mean, we can talk about a general great, like what we're seeing from a social media strategy from a visual identity standpoint is it's becoming very fluid, right? Like if you have a core spirit of your brand and a core common language of your brand, you can do a lot. Like you can really, this week we're going like super dark imagery, like dramatic imagery. Next week it's super bright imagery, or it's like next week it's more, comical, or it's more this, it's that. But as long as you're kind of retaining the core of like what Liquid Death would, if it's morbid is a theme or like a red thread throughout their content, they just have to keep it morbid, but it can literally be whatever they want within that. So there's a lot of room to play. And I think that's also what we see on social is like brands that are leading are the ones that are playing on social, not necessarily like, oh, it has to be in this box and the grid has to look this way and that way. And it's like, no, it doesn't need that anymore.
David said, our
Chief
strategy officer said that it's only 4% that view the grid nowadays.
Yeah.
And that 4% is mostly just marketers.
Yeah. And it's on average every person.
I'm gonna put that in a quote. No one can steal that, okay? But I love that. It's like, and then it'll be say, not substantiated by any real data. It's just like a little asterisk. Like we don't really have stats on this, but
don't fact check it. But I mean, I think don't fact check it.
That's what most likely.
That's what I'm gonna put. I'm gonna put like an asterisk and don't fact check this in really small letters.
I mean, a brand profile usually only gets like 2 feed interactions right after a follow. So I mean, the number is significantly small too. So the amount of effort focusing on such a small thing, it's quite a lot, right? So you have to kind of do a cost benefit analysis there if it's worth it going for that perfect grid. But speaking of this a good piece of content, then what makes a good social creative campaign in your guys' opinion? Like, how do you get there from, let's say, the problem we want to solve to the end goal?
Yeah. I think like social media campaigns have shifted from where they were maybe 5 years ago. It was a lot more like run and gun. And I think you could call it the big boys have moved into the game as well, like the DDB, Ogilvy, all the big agencies.
Mm-hmm.
And I think with that, also the big creative directors of the industry are there. So they are working a lot more and figuring out how we can use social media to really get there.
Mm-hmm. It's no longer an afterthought. It's main part of the campaign.
Correct.
So therefore, like the more traditional styles of creating advertising are sort of making their way into social content now.
Yeah, so like big campaigns like 360, Umbrella, where everything covers. I saw, I don't know if you saw this Mountain Dew campaign that they released on Super Bowl. Did you see it?
No, I don't think so.
So the commercial is where they drive a car. It's all about Mountain Dew. There's insane amounts of Mountain Dew bottles flying everywhere.
Okay.
And they say you should count the correct amount of Mountain Dew bottles in this commercial.
Oh, right.
Post it on Twitter, and you might win $1 million.
Yeah.
Whoa.
And they obviously blew up in Twitter, right?
Yeah.
So within like few hours, they get
everything was Mountain Dew. So
everything
Mountain Dew was
Mountain
trending
Dew.
instead of the Super Bowl.
Yes.
Of course.
Which became like a crazy thing.
Yeah.
And you could say this is a TV ad, but actually
It's a social media.
it's a social media ad
Yeah.
promoted on
yeah.
TV.
It's meant to
at the right
It's
time.
meant to drive traction on social.
Yeah, exactly.
Not drive traction on TV. And they're not trying to they're trying to create brand awareness.
Yeah.
More so than anything else in the biggest way possible. That's it. That's super interesting. I
And-
didn't see that. That's a brilliant case.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah,
that's
yeah.
exactly how you do it.
And you could say, "Oh wow, $1 million, that's insanity," but actually, the million, like it costs $4 million to post that ad on on Super Bowl.
Yeah. But the amount of mentions and the amount of exposure they
it's
got was probably
crazy.
worth $500 million.
Yes.
Not.
Yeah,
So the $6 million that they paid, well, they probably paid the agency $1 million, probably production $1 million, probably the, and then the ad spend was $5 million. So they're under 10 for the whole campaign, and it's a gamble to get the $500 million in exposure, but they did it.
and of course they had a huge influencer like John Cena,
Yeah.
and he would promote through Fallon show, through every
course.
single possible thing.
Yeah, so they're covering their bases as well. They're like, okay, if we don't do well here, then at least we have a famous person
Exactly.
also attached to it. So
And-
that gives us some more.
Or else it will just create a synergy, right?
Yeah, and what a lot of people don't do, they just put a famous person in the ad and then don't run it. But actually, the proper way, as we know, is like you have to milk that influencer.
Yeah.
Not
Yeah.
literally, but you have to really.
John Cena's nipples. That's a meme. We
But-
really milked John Cena for this.
But you get the most out of it.
Yeah.
To really.
Yeah, you have to. Like, you can't just let it. Your contract with that influencer or that superstar has to really, like, not just be, hey, star in our thing. It has to be like,
He also was kind of like using the advantage saw. You could see it. Like he has a new show
okay, so
on
it's
HBO, and he
yeah.
was dressed up as that superhero
oh, yeah, that's right.
during the interview. So like, I think it's a push and
Yeah.
pull from his side as well. So, but anyways,
Makes sense.
it's shifting on how things are.
Yeah, I really agree with you that it's more, it's grown up. It's more like now not something that just brands sort of think of as an afterthought. Oh, we need a Facebook page or we need an Instagram. It's like, it is their core channel. It's the channel that's going to give them the biggest return on their investment, right? So I totally agree with you. Like that's not to be forgotten or forgotten.
I mean, content can be many things, right? So what's your guys' like judgment based on a good piece of content? Is it based on hardcore data always? Is it just a look and feel, or is it any other?
Well, it's all of those things,
metrics.
right? Like, it's all of those things, and it's also hard to say what is a good piece of content. You have to look at it like over time as well, because
How so?
well, like, can you, when you do a piece of content, most brands just think of it as that's that time and place, and we'll publish it, and that'll be it. Like, but in large, if you're thinking about your social media strategy in a larger context or in a bigger sort of way, you're also thinking about how do we, that piece of content fits into the greater scheme of either a campaign or a style or a messaging or sort of a flow that we're trying to. So just doing one-off sort of stuff, like what Emils is saying, is like, that's not really how social is done these days. It's thought of in a bigger sort of way. And so just one piece of content isn't going to make or break the bank. It has to be sort of
A part of something
part of
holistic.
something
maybe.
holistic. And then on top of that, it's like, you're not just looking at that as that one time. Then you have the opportunity to squeeze that content out and say, like, okay, let's take some stills from it. Let's post it again in a week and a half or 2 weeks. Let's do Instagram stories with it. Let's do an Instagram reel with it. Like, so it's not just seen as just like, here's this one piece of content. Is it good or is it bad? It has to be sort of thought of in a greater sense,
Makes sense.
in my opinion.
Yeah. Do you have
Yeah.
something you want to add?
I think like
it.
to that, adding like, we are also rethinking how we create these bigger campaigns, and so we're really trying to make sure that there's a problem that we're trying to resolve, that there's research done on both to figure out what is the communication strategy, what is the like the actual strategy for the whole thing, like how do we combine them, you know, what is the core message, then we create a concept, and then only then, when all of that is locked in, we start creating like ideation for concept pieces, and then eventually execution.
Yeah. And that gives it more legs as well. Like, for example, we had a campaign that just started on social, is now like, we're taking it to billboards, and it's ending up like in print, and it's like, it's having its own new life again, because it is based on it's rooted in strategy and human insights. It's not just rooted in what do we do today on social. It's very much like, so it doesn't matter what the channel is in a sense, other than like, when you do produce it for that channel, it needs to have the mechanics of that channel. It needs to be really well thought of in terms of what is this for. But, you know, because of the core, it can be basically on anything.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing you guys say is like the foundation and the holistic view is really important, right? And then I think that leads up perfect into to talk about this part of concepting around a social media campaign or a good piece of content.
Right.
Emils, can you lead us a little bit more into, you know, how do you make a good foundation for a concept?
Yeah, Emils, how?
Yeah, how, Emils?
Yeah,
Give
Emils,
us
how?
Oh my God.
the how-tos. Step 1, 2, 3.
I don't want I want the silver bullet, like quick fix. I don't want to wait. Just tell me how.
Like what I said just now earlier, we have like a systematic thinking of how we want to resolve something. So it would be, first off, like really understanding what is the problem that we want to set out to do.
Yeah, usually, and it's the problem behind the problem.
Yeah.
Because usually brands are like, oh, I just want more exposure. Okay, but is that the problem? Like, what is it that we're really solving for the user of your product or for the market in a sense? Like, usually there's a problem there that we need to solve. So that's,
Then we do like research and really understand like the target audience and what is their pain point. Usually the problem that we want to fix is something that they have.
Yeah.
So we want to put ourselves in their shoes to understand that, like, what is the human insight that we, you know, can tackle. And a lot of brands do that. Like it's as I said before, it's somewhat like the classical way of looking at things. Like back in the days, like an observation would be most women don't look like, you know, most beauty ads. And then the insight is it's because most women don't look like 95% of the, you know, the beauty ad models.
Yeah.
So the Dove back in the days created this real beauty. So it's like, and it's the same way we're doing things now, where we're bringing in, like TikTok is the perfect nowadays example of that.
Yeah.
Is where we have constantly every single piece is created on an insight because it's
Relatable.
it's very relatable. So we create this bigger idea. So for example, I don't know, for Olaplex, where we talk about that we really don't like that our boyfriend uses
Our products.
right?
Yeah.
That's the women insight for
that she's like spent a lot of money on Olaplex and
Exactly.
her boyfriend's using it as body wash.
yeah. So then we just create tons of content around that insight.
Yeah.
And then it becomes way more powerful because people are like, oh, I can totally relate to this.
Yeah.
So they
'Cause my
like, they
boyfriend
share.
also uses my Olaplex
Exactly.
as body wash.
Yeah.
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 I just want to challenge that a little bit. Just what if the creative came before the strategy then? Because right now we talk about good pieces of content and campaigns are based on a solid strategy as the foundation,
Yeah.
right? What if we reverse that?
Sometimes
what's
it
the
can.
outcome then?
Like,
Yeah.
so it's not like mutually exclusive. Like I think, or mutually inclusive, whatever you want to say, because sometimes you do just have this creative spark.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, this would be brilliant. And then you back it into strategy. You basically go, okay, how do we, and that's really a sales tactic on the marketing side or on the agency side, is that we have to root it in a strategy. We have to go backwards and say, but it's not that it wasn't there. It's just we had to uncover it because it is there. And that's why that creative idea works in the first place.
Yeah.
It wouldn't work in the first place without it.
Yeah.
It's just we didn't start there. You know what I mean? So it's just like, it's like the existence of something out in the world doesn't necessarily mean that it doesn't have something that came before it. And
Yeah.
we just have to get to what that is.
The way I would put it is like, you can come up with a creative idea, which will be the best idea ever, but maybe it will not solve that problem of the client that they have. With strategy, you can kind of point more precisely into what do you want to resolve here.
Yeah.
Because
Yeah.
to
and it can
create,
sharpen the original idea a lot.
sure,
Yeah.
yeah, but the reason why we do it systematically is like because you get a more meat to play with once you get to the creative part, and the
Yeah.
more precise, because you can go so many directions, but the right one only comes from if you have a lot of like strategic insights.
Yeah.
So we're building on the strategic insights to create like a human insight.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I hope it
equal-
makes sense.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
equal inclusive. I mean, that makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think oftentimes, like TikTok specifically, I mean, we're creating a lot of great content is in the comments. Like, it's so interesting and fascinating to me that a lot of brands are finally opening their eyes to like listening to their community and what their community writes, because that's what actually goes, oh, because you're actually getting a tapping straight into the source of human insights by reading comments, because you will see people saying things that will be like, that girl must really love that man. Right? Because she's letting him get away with using her Olaplex on his body. So then you go, that's another angle into this. So
Yeah.
now it's not just about getting mad about him. What if we did a campaign where it's like, if you love your man, you let him wash his body with Olaplex. Then there's some more meat to play on, which is
Yeah.
that insight and then also that connection to the community. So it's like you really can tap into
Yeah.
those things.
Feeding you
that way.
different ways to execute on
Or-
the
Yeah.
same insight.
So, for example, there's a brand called Oticon.
Yeah, a hearing aid brand.
Correct.
Yeah.
Their audience constantly engages with them on Instagram,
Yeah.
and you get a lot of stories from the users, and they're really positive.
Yeah.
And that's like, it's such a source for creating more content.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But you're stealing, like you're talking about one of our clients' competitors.
Is that a bad
have-
thing?
That's a bad thing. No, that's a good thing.
Pain in that, I have a insight after I want to share with you.
You can't
in
do
terms
it?
of
No, of
hearing
course
aids.
we can.
I think it's good.
I think it's fine. It's good. It's okay. Talk about our clients' competitors. It's okay. It's okay. Relax. It's okay.
We were gonna edit in a chirp, chirp, chirp.
Yeah. So there's this client.
Yeah.
It's okay. They can pay for. We'll go to Oticon with this afterwards.
Yeah.
Be like, you guys want to sponsor the episode?
No, but they're doing great job with the building community.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree. It's also like we're not oblivious that there's other brands out there. Like you have to be
Definitely
within your market. You have to look at what others are doing.
Yeah. So I think maybe let's elaborate a little bit on that. I would love to hear your guys' I would love to hear your guys' opinion on what brands do you actually think is doing great and why so. I mean, the brands do different stuff.
Yeah. I mean, personally, I follow.
Just on top of your mind.
I mean, I follow a lot. I think I follow almost every major brand. I mean, I think Burger King does a great job. I think you mentioned Slim Jim.
Why? Where does they excel?
But that's going
instance?
back to that original point. They talk into their community. They are part. I've said this many times before, but like they are in the tribe, not out of the tribe trying to infiltrate it. They are very much like they understand their audience, they understand their product and their brand, and they execute on that. They don't, and they're not there to sell. I mean, they are there to sell like burgers, but they're also there to like, you know, they also make fun of themselves in large ways.
Yeah.
Like, so I think those brands also that can be a little bit more self-deprecating, can be a little bit more self-aware to say, okay, we know we're trying to sell you burgers or makeup or hearing aids, and they reference that and they know that, and they're not trying to like trick people, then I think those are also really good. Transparency in some ways, but it's even going beyond transparency to a place where you're letting your community in on the joke, and you understand. It's almost like
you don't take yourself too seriously.
Yeah, it's breaking the fourth wall in a sense in terms of advertising, and I think brands that are doing that are the ones that are kind of winning these days.
Yeah.
So Burger King, I mean, even McDonald's to a large extent does a great job there. We mentioned Slim Jim. Liquid Death is doing quite fantastic work. You know, Olaplex, we mentioned, they're using a ton of UGC, a ton of influencer content. They're, you know, really bolstering their community, doing stuff for their community. So they're doing a great job.
Do you want to add some of your favorite brands?
To
that mix, Emils.
While you do that. Look at the ones I'm following. I'm like,
can I name another agency?
Yeah, of course.
I think Maximum Effort is pretty cool.
Yeah.
It's Ryan Reynolds' agency. And they do. He kind of transfers his humor into the things that they make, and so he promotes also his own agency throughout social media. I think it's pretty good. Liquid Death, as we talked, like it's a really, really cool brand. I think their campaigns are unique.
Yeah.
So, for example, last Halloween they made a vegan human meat kind of campaign.
Yeah.
Where they opened a restaurant. I think it was fake, but it's more the campaigns and the things they do. They hired a witch doctor to chant for the underdog in the Super Bowl, and put $50,000 on the underdog.
Yeah.
Sort of, to back their bets. So it's all the things they do are a bit morbid, but the concepts are amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I really like, I'm into cycling in my free time. So I'm also following tons of cycling brands.
Yeah.
One of the coolest ones that I know, and I still think they're doing the best work out of all sports brands that I follow. It's Rafa.
Yeah. How
They
so?
have their own production team. And I think they have taken a turn where they're saying content is king, and really doing things crazy, things that their viewers would find interesting and engage with. So instead of doing the regular route where you would do Tour de France races and just post stuff from races of like somebody finishing and cheering, you know, they do crazy things. So they do proper social media. So they create larger pieces of content and then downframe that into Instagram, Facebook, Insta stories, wherever.
Yeah.
So
yeah, they're taking like a Netflix, like they would be like an entertainment brand.
Yeah.
They're taking like, okay, almost Red Bull style, like let's build bigger stories like around racing and biking and like then chop it up and not do like this, hey, we're sponsoring this athlete or we're doing this athlete.
Exactly.
Like, they're actually doing documentary sort of style and entertainment style stuff, right?
Yeah,
Building that kind of legacy brand.
Exactly. So one person might be doing like Tour de France in the old style where he's not supported for, and the documentary is like 30 minutes, but it takes the guy like 25 days to do it, right?
Yeah.
He's completely destroyed.
Yeah.
But it's really entertaining to watch. He did a 1,000-kilometer ride nonstop for 48 hours. And he was hallucinating.
Yeah.
Of course he
We
was.
don't, I'm not saying that's a,
Something
but it was entertaining.
you should support.
They do.
We're doing that at the agency next. 48-hour briefs.
Solid.
Just don't sleep briefs. That's what they're called.
I used to participate in
24
48
hour? Or is it
48
hours?
hour film
Festival creations.
yeah.
Yeah, we're gonna do that at our summer party.
Sounds fun. So and then they
I
do
can't
like
that I'm
crazy
sick,
race.
You're not sick. You're gonna star in one of the movies.
Okay.
You're gonna be.
It's fine. As long as I'm the star, then it's fine.
You gotta be the star.
Okay.
Anyways, they create interesting content. Like one of the races was like you could win a pig if you won. So they participate. It's like an old French tradition.
To get a pig, a truffle pig.
You get a truffle pig, I guess, as like the main prize. So
it's a good prize.
they keep creating these kind of fun contents, and then their art direction in general is just
on point.
on point.
Yeah,
Or
they
just
know
true
their
to their
brand.
brand.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think you're right. Rafa does a great job.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, I was just swiping through my Instagram because I'm following, I think it's either it's Jaja or it's Jaja Tequila. And I've been following them for a while, and they just have, they're very, I would just say interesting. Like they go for the moment. They really show, like, for example, when gas prices were really high, they're showing how much actually tequila is versus gas prices and being like, tequila's cheaper. So like, might as well just drink tequila,
Don't
which
drive,
is quite,
just drink.
which is quite interesting. Right.
Yeah.
And they just
So
actually,
it's kind of meme based as well.
yeah, it's meme based as well. And I think they just have like a really funny way of doing things. Like here, they did this Coachella. They did this billboard outside of Coachella.
Yeah. I
For those of you that aren't watching and are listening, it's a Coachella bound ? And there's a picture of Jesus with like a flower crown, and he's like, Jesus is watching you, and then it's tequila is greater than drugs.
Maybe send it to our editor so he can have it edited in the footage. Have that as
Solid.
the graphics.
It's so
But
good.
this is what I mean. Like,
Yeah.
this can easily be a
It's playful. Yeah.
social media post.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that's right. I mean, and this goes, when people drive past this at Coachella, they're like, oh, stop. I got to get a picture of this. This is so funny,
Yeah.
right? And then it becomes a viral sort of thing, and they're trying to take over the Coachella sort of hashtag by having something that's interesting that people see on the way to Coachella. So it's smart.
Can you guys give me some examples of what not to do? We don't have to diss any brands, but it's just like what not to do and what should they then do to improve these faults or traps. I don't know what brands kind of
Advertising.
into.
Like, I think, like, if you think too much, like, hey, we have to promote our products and really push our USPs out there and make sure everybody understands, like, we are this, this, and this, and, and that's your main sort of goal, is to get across your USPs. I think that always dies pretty quick. I mean, people are not on social media to get advertised to. They're there to get entertained. They're there to, like, participate in a community. And if you're doing that, then you're gonna fail. Like if you're just pushing out ads.
Don't do ads unless you're doing ads.
Yes, exactly.
Like, really, because
Yeah.
Instagram is somewhat like you should see it as a lifestyle thing,
Yeah.
where ask yourself, what would you post on your feed? Because people follow those like brands because they would like to be, wearing them, feeling like that. Like, it's a feeling that you have to portray in a way.
Yeah, it is lifestyle. That's why we're on Instagram, right? You want that kind of
Yeah, but
tap
it's all
into that.
entertainment. I mean, like, social is entertainment. Like, it's become places, like, you spend 90 minutes a day. Like, the average person spends 90 minutes a day on TikTok. That's not people exposing themselves to advertising for 90 minutes. They're there to get entertained. They're there to feel like they are in the know, that want to feel like, oh, I've got the latest update on what's going on in the world, or this or that. So you have to feed into that. If you're there just saying, here's our latest X product, and it allows you to do X, Y, and Z, do that with ads. Do that, promote that. If you want good social organic content, you got to think way outside of that.
Yeah.
The basic question is like, what kind of value are you producing for your like followers?
Yeah. But that's, I don't even think you should go that, like, because traditional marketers or marketers that don't get it will just be like, well, the value is that they understand what products we have and what that gives to them.
No. I
That's
mean,
not
like,
real value.
I'm like, in a basic words, like, is it educational? Is it entertaining?
Yeah.
Is it inspirational?
Right.
Does it create some awareness? You know, like,
a
what do you get
Yeah.
as the viewer by following this?
So not the brand
Like-
value, but kind of what value do your audience or your community
exactly.
really want to have?
So like a Slim Jim is a pure entertainment. It's purely just memes.
Yeah.
You know, so some other brands like, let's say, Novo Nordisk,
Yeah.
they create awareness and education.
Right. It's a pharmaceutical brand for those
Yeah.
listening. Yeah.
So you
And
have
inspiration.
and inspiration.
Yeah.
Like you have to kind of think, what is that value that I bring with this to the viewer?
Right. What do they get out of it?
Yeah, maybe it's just an art piece. Great, you know.
Yeah.
So they
True.
get inspired from
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Just on that note, like that's I think lately what Bang & Olufsen has been doing is creating this kind of value of like an art piece rather than
Interesting. I'm gonna have to follow them.
Bang Olufsen sound.
I was.
But you unfollowed? Jeez.
cut that out.
Cut that out.
I'm trying to
Cut
sell.
Well, okay. I mean, I have a last thing I want to tap into, which is actually you mentioned, and Chris, you showed this billboard thing that Jaja is doing, for instance.
Yeah.
And we talked about the kind of ads, sorry, TV advertisement, commercial that's maybe actually a social ad, basically, or social campaign. So these lines are kind of blurred, right? So I want to tap into this social media versus or with traditional ads, traditional marketing. Can you expand a little bit on that? Is there any synergies? Can traditional advertising be on social? And what's kind of the premises there?
I think there's some blurred lines as we were talking, right?
Yeah.
We can see more and more brands doing the sort of both rather than one or the other. One of the examples was the Mountain Dew. That's like goes on both. They're recently like Burger King does it all the time. Like they just released the poop emoji ice cream. I don't know if you have seen that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I mean, with that, they're also getting tons of traction just from influencers. You know, taking their pictures on social media, even though it's the traditional way of thinking about things, of just creating brand awareness through that.
Right.
Besides that, I know a great example was also, you know, the for homeless people, there's a magazine here in Denmark.
Yeah. Who's for B?
Yeah, there's one in UK exactly like that as well. And then due to Corona, they actually went down in sales massively, almost to a zero.
Yeah.
Because there's no businessman going to work. And it was mostly focused on the businessmen outside of buildings when they go on a break.
Yeah.
So what they did is they transformed that to be a social campaign. And they made like a collaboration with LinkedIn. Where they gave free paid ads, so they advertised it through geolocations to the people that work in those buildings around where they would usually sell. Yeah. So they would, let's say his name is Mark. Mark would usually work around buildings around his block. Those geolocations were then advertised, and then the people who commented or liked, he got instantly could contact all those people. Do you want to buy a subscription? The sales increased massively. The homeless people became the sales reps, and the community managers, because they would reply and talk with them, and they would set up like proper LinkedIn accounts with like sales rep. They would take a proper image of him, you know, and it's just way better.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
That's smart.
And they would digitalize them. Yeah, and it's a legit job from there on.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And of course, it went on to traditional media from there on, like TV, news, all of it.
Yeah, that's cool.
Should we then think TV first, and then how can we use this in on social, or?
Yeah, I think you have to like completely blur the lines and think of it like as a big thing. Like start with the strategy, figure out what do you actually want to do? Where does your target audience live? If your target audience is 60-year-olds that never watch or 70-year-olds that never open social media, even though that's changing, maybe it's better to do TV or, put poster ads right out outside their thing. Think what is the best for your target audience. But if it's Zennials, probably TV is not the place for your campaign to be.
Yeah. For those of you listening, Zillennials are those in-betweeners from Generation Z and Generation M.
Millennials.
Is that what it is? Millennials?
Yeah.
What is Generation? Is it Gen M? No, it's Gen...
It's just millennials.
Gen Y. No. Is it just Millennials? There's no Gen next to it?
No, I don't think so. There's Gen millennials, and then...
There's Gen X, then there's baby boomers.
I'm a
and those
millennial.
who don't know, millennials start from 1988.
Are you? Oh, yeah, you are.
I have no idea. Sorry. The number changes all the time. I'm not anything.
Yeah.
I think you're
I'm my own generation.
Oh, no.
Generation K for Cubby.
Oh, okay. CK. Yeah.
Beautiful.
For Chris Carbonus.
Generation
I get
CK.
that. But that's really interesting, that we don't have to look necessarily as, TV don't have to... Traditional commercial advertisement don't have to look at social media as a foe, but maybe there's a lot of synergies nowadays to actually make friends.
I think it's gonna move more and more towards social though. And more away from the TV.
Yeah, we've seen that.
It has been happening
advertising
forever.
spend on TV is less than social now.
Yeah.
It surpassed it last year, I think.
There you go.
Yeah.
Data. Facts.
So I think as we're moving forward, this is just going to be like one big thing. You figure out who are you selling to, but as you would do always, but social is just becoming a bigger and bigger, and we know that.
All right. Thank you guys for sharing, and here you have it, guys. Let me summarize the conversation we just had. For good content creation, we need a thumb stopper. We need something that resonates with the community and based on insights. And then for when you really want to create a creative campaign it should be built on solid foundation, which is strategy and research, which will help you put more meat on the bone for the creative concepts. And examples of good brands who does that is seeing things holistically, and this taps into what's relevant for the community, consumers, audience, users, whatsoever. And lastly, you gotta look for synergies between traditional placements and then social to get most value of your creative content.
Wow. That was awesome.
Sounds
great.
Smart.
Yes.
That's great. Yeah, you guys were smart.
Yeah.
So thank you guys for tuning in. Subscribe, leave your thoughts, your feedback, your likes and dislikes with us, everything. And then we want to thank you for listening and tune in for the next one.
See you guys.
See you.
Adios.
This has been the Social Media Sucks Podcast.